Howdy, with this video I want to go over journals 1 and 2, make sure you understand what I'm looking for there, and then go over the descriptive paragraph assignment that's coming due. Journals 1 and 2 are due Thursday the 27th. I'm doing this video on Tuesday the 25th. So the first two journals are due on the 27th, and the draft of the descriptive paragraph is due next Monday on the 31st. Once that draft is in, I'll mark it up and make recommendations, and then you'll get it back and make revisions and turn in the final version on February 3rd. And then we'll start the next round of the next essay. To find the journal entries, you just come to the content page and come down to journal entries, and you'll click on journal entry prompts. And the assignment's kind of given to you right there. Basically, these are free writing exercises. In other words, I want you to get to, in this case, 125 words with each entry, pretty much as fast as you can. Don't worry about perfect writing. It should be legible and in English, obviously, but don't worry about perfect sentence structure and grammar and that kind of stuff. Just kind of show me you read the prompt, thought about it, and then give me about 125 words on what you're thinking there. You don't have to respond to every question within a prompt. If you kind of address the first 3 or 4 questions and you get to 125 words, you're done, right? But for the first prompt, just kind of want to know your general experience with writing and school in general. Did you write it? When's the last time you wrote an essay, right? Not everybody straight out of high school here. Were these writing experiences good? Do you have one of those horrible English teachers that just like, you're a horrible writer, rah, 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 rah. Just made you feel bad about the whole experience, right? I had one of those. But does writing come easy? Is it hard work for you? What kind of environment do you like to work in? Things like that. Just kind of getting a general sense of how you go about doing your writing. The second one, I want you to read the parable of the talents. And it's not an effort to convert anybody, but it's a very fascinating Bible passage where Jesus talks about how people are given talents. Sometimes it's a kind of it's referring to money, but it's also referring to the talents we're given as human beings, right? And whether or not we choose to multiply those talents or we bury those talents and just don't develop them. And I'm kind of asking you, what are your God-given or nature-given talents? It's just, sometimes talents are just part of the genetic lottery, right? What separates you from the crowd? What are you good at? Do you see yourself developing these talents? And how so? It's kind of an interesting question there. And what these first two are kind of get you into the process of writing, but also kind of thinking about yourself. This parable is going to apply to the next essay, in particular, the self-regulated learner essay. But generally, after these two, you're going to see them write absolutely directly to the writing we're engaged in at the time. With this first one, I wasn't sure how to. They're not going to relate directly to a paragraph about food, but kind of getting us ready, started in the class there, and get us thinking about ourselves a little bit. So again, I'd like to see this first two. I'd like to put them both in one document, and you're going to have these done by Thursday, and you're going to put those into the D2L assignments Dropbox folder. Hopefully it's one Word document. So those are the journal entries, and we're just doing 2 at a time. Don't worry about the other ones yet. We'll get to them. For the descriptive paragraph assignment, I'm going to come back up to the content page, and you're going to see it here under paragraph/essay assignments. And there it is, descriptive paragraph assignment. I think I already have it pulled up here. But you just click on that, it'll open it up. And you'll see that for this assignment, you're going to describe the best food dish you've ever eaten. Your description should be limited to one food. In other words, don't try and do an entire plate of food or entire Thanksgiving dinner or something like that. The salad bar at Shoney's, that's going to be a little too much to describe. You want one particular dish at one particular time. So if you say my favorite food is steak, make sure you tell me what kind of steak. Is it a ribeye, filet, sirloin, whatever? And where did you eat it? Is it from Outback? Is it something your Uncle John made, or whatever there? So make sure you're limited to just one food on one plate. Your paragraph should run at least 225 words. And that's a bit of a challenge. Generally, it's easy to get to the first 150 words. Then you're kind of like, oh, what else do I say? It's just green beans or something. But you want to go back and make sure you have good figurative language, good details, you're using all the senses, which we'll talk about here in a second. But you're going to begin the paragraph with a clear and precise topic sentence that states exactly what food you're going to be discussing and where you ate the food, and probably when you ate the food. Sometimes our memory of food is better than the food might have actually been, right? But after that first sentence that tells us what you're going to be talking about, you want to start arranging your details in a logical order. What do you notice about the food first? You don't generally just don't, put food in your mouth without at least looking at it. Generally you smell it. And particularly if it's something that takes a while to prepare, and you go home and your partner's prepared, your favorite spaghetti sauce or whatever. You can smell it when you walk in the door. It's like, right? Make sure you talk about your body reactions. If you walk in the door and you smell something really good, you probably start salivating and your belly starts growling, and all these good things start happening with your body, right? So you want to think about what kind of order to put your details in. And that kind of depends on the food and your experience, right? But taste is generally one of the last things you do with food, if you think about it. But so, like I said, kind of what do you notice first, second, third? Make sure each body sentence is clear and precise. Make sure you stay focused on the food. So if you're having food at Christmas time, I don't want to hear about your Christmas presents and what you did at Christmas. I want to see you describing this one food. Not talking about everything else that's going on around you there. Once you get a good description of the food done, you want to end your paragraph with a good concluding sentence that brings the paragraph to a nice close. That kind of depends on your experience in the food. Some requirements. Make sure you have all 5 senses in your paragraph, right? Food employs all 5 senses: sight, you always look at food; sound, smell, texture, right? If something's supposed to be crunchy and it's not, that's a problem with food, right? Or if you're eating that piece of fried chicken and you get that beautiful crunch and you're like, oh yeah, this is going to be good. And of course, taste. Make sure you have good figurative language. Make sure you use at least 5 forms of figurative language 5 times. I'll go over that here in a second. Be precise with colors. If your favorite food's broccoli, is it beautiful, freshly steamed broccoli that looks kind of almost this beautiful forest green color? If your favorite food's broccoli casserole, the broccoli's kind of be that kind of more lime greenish, overcooked kind of look, but it doesn't mean the casserole's not good, right? Make sure you're precise with colors. If you go into Lowe's and ask for red paint, they're just going to look at you like what? They're going to point you to a wall with 5,000 shades of red. So make sure you're precise with colors. Don't use very or really or it in the sentences. Don't say something smelled very good. That doesn't mean anything. Or it tasted really, really good. How many reallys are you going to put in front of that? These are called intensifiers, but they're not really descriptive if you think about it. And I want you to avoid it, and all your writing for this class is just a good way to write better sentences to get it out of there. For figurative language, if you come down to the help resources, there's a descriptive essay hints. It's easier for me to highlight things if I download them. And this is where you get into figurative language. Again, little passage on colors. I just covered that. You can read faster than I can talk, so I'll let you read that if you want to. But figurative language, the idea is to make your writing kind of come alive and make it fun to read. So if you just say something like, that steak tasted really good, it's like, well, okay. If it tasted like, a slice of heaven served by, angels themselves or something, then all of a sudden your writing starts coming alive. I start getting the sense like, man, he really liked this steak or whatever. And there's different types of figurative language. Similes, when you compare two unlike things, using like or as. There's some good examples there. You look like 5 miles of bad road, comparing a person to a road, particularly a person who might be having a bad day. Our love is like a red, red rose. But all of these, we do this all the time, like particularly insults, poetry, religious language relies on simile and metaphor. The metaphor is just doing the same kind of thing, comparing two unlike things, but not using like or as. So if you say, my brother's not the coldest beer in the cooler, I'm guessing you're telling me your brother's not particularly bright, right? For some reason, or he's about to do something stupid. But when you call your sibling a turd or something, it's not a very nice metaphor, comparing them to fecal matter, right? But it can become quite effective and kind of funny if you're both joking. And hopefully, as you write about your food, you start to use some metaphor and simile in there. This smelled like what? My belly grumbled like like what? A tractor or a snarling pig or something like that. Whatever your belly sounds like. Personification. Excuse me. Giving human traits to non-human objects. So if you're looking at the food food you love, you might say, this ribeye just begging me to eat it, right? You're giving a human trait to an inanimate object there. That could be kind of a fun way to describe things as well. Hyperbole, deliberate, obvious over-exaggeration. If you're eating foods like I could have eaten 50 more steaks, no, probably not, but the exaggeration kind of implies that this was really good and you're having a good time with whatever you're eating. Synesthesia, deliberate confusion of the senses. That could be kind of a tricky one, but sometimes that tasted so good, my hair grew, or something like that. I'm making stuff up, obviously. We're also like, wait, that can't actually happen. Kind of confusing different things going on with your body's reactions. But sometimes good food does that, right? You get all this just and of course, verbal irony. You may not be using this because you're describing the best food you've ever had, but generally for what our purposes is when we're talking about sarcasm. It's like, gee, Mr. Fish, can this video go on any longer? It's kind of just verbal irony. The words say one thing but mean another. Kind of sarcasm relies on verbal irony there, right? But those are some of the forms. It's not all the forms. But again, the idea is when you start describing things to make your description kind of come alive and make it, one, you're writing interesting to read, but also hopefully it's more fun to write. The last thing I want to show you is a sample essay. And we'll see all this at work. We're going to go back up to paragraphs, essay assignments, and come here to sample descriptive paragraph. I think I already have that up. Yeah, it's right here. But you'll just click on that, pull it up. This one's going to be about the worst food I've ever eaten, kind of switching the assignment. Make sure you're writing about the best food you've ever eaten. But the worst food I've ever eaten is my Aunt Loretta's macaroni and cheese. Good topic sentence, telling us exactly what food I'm going to talk about. Aunt Loretta's macaroni and cheese looks fairly normal. The wormy pile has that gooey mustard yellow overcooked look that makes the dish appear to be regular Kraft macaroni and cheese. So here the writer's already kind of saying, it's like, I don't even like macaroni and cheese to begin with, but now I got to eat whatever he's about to describe. However, this marginal creation has a certain grainy texture, like someone has put sand in the cheese mix. So notice we're looking at it first, putting the details in a logical order, and making sure our details make sense as we're progressing through the description. Aunt Loretta creates this bizarre concoction because she adds 15 bags of sugar to her macaroni and cheese. Obviously some hyperbole there. You can't add that much sugar to something and not have sugar. This is why the goop smells like spoiled, slimy honey ham, I'm sorry. Notice trying to be descriptive with words, not saying just macaroni and cheese all the time. We got the wormy pile, the goop, the gorp, so this marginal creation. Again, when you're going to be describing the best food you're eating, so you're going to use happier words, I guess. But now we're getting to what it smells like. Whenever Aunt Loretta puts a 5-pound spoonful on my plate, I can hear my stomach growl like a Harley Davidson as a warning not to eat the gorp. But I have to keep Aunt Loretta happy. Kind of a long sentence there. But more hyperbole, deliberate exaggeration. She's obviously not putting 5 pounds of macaroni and cheese on my plate, but it looks that way because I know what's coming. And my body's starting to react like, no, don't eat that, bro. But again, when you're talking about your best food, your body's going to have the opposite reaction, right? My body's like, you start salivating, and you start anticipating, a good meal. Once the sweet mixture is in my mouth, the pasta expands exponentially into a humongous wad of syrupy, cheesy goo. So getting into the texture of it, right? You want to use all 5 senses. So we got sight, smell, texture, and we start getting sounds. My mouth makes a glomping, sucking sound as I eat the macaroni and cheese, like my mouth is trudging through thick mud. Good example of a simile there, right? Using like or as to compare two unlike things. The stuff tastes like a soggy cheddar cheese gumball. Again, another simile using like or as. My eyes bulge halfway out of their sockets as I chew. My eyelids blink uncontrollably. Tears start flowing from my eyes like the rapids of the Nolichucky River, and my face turns cherry red. Right? Trying to be as precise as I can with colors, using good figurative language, keeping my details in a logical order. Finally, got it in my mouth, and the taste and the feeling is just unpleasant, as it would be with the worst food you've ever eaten. When you're describing your best food, same thing, but just kind of the opposite, right? I feel like I'm eating 50 pounds of Wisconsin snot. When I finally swallow the cheesy glue ball, and again, notice I'm giving different, in this case, unpleasant names to the food I'm eating. Try and do the same thing with the best food you've ever eaten, right? I have to swallow once to get the culinary nightmare down, and then swallow again to make sure the food beast stays down. The sludge ball slowly lands in my stomach like a wrecking ball. My soul actually shudders, and I fight off the urge to cry like a baby. Pretty good description there. Trying to make the experience come alive for the reader and realize that this was just not a pleasant experience at all. Have my details in logical order, using good figurative language. Then I need to bring my essay to a close. And in this case, I got to point out, Loretta's still looking at me, and I got all this. I got a whole plate of this stuff to eat. So that's how we kind of bring the paragraph to an end. And then I brace myself for the next punishing bite. So pretty good descriptive paragraph, following the essay, the assignment, making the word count, had a good topic sentence, good details in a logical order, completing all these other requirements. And that's what I'm looking for with your paragraph. And again, journals 1 and 2 are due this Thursday. The draft of the descriptive paragraphs due on Monday, and I'll go over the paragraph and and offer commentary, and probably, hopefully, some good things and probably some things to fix. Then we'll get done with this paragraph on Thursday and start the next writing assignment. If you have any questions after working on this, be sure to let me know, and we'll talk to you later. Bye bye.